Today, I'm going to talk about how to heal from a shame spiral after viewing porn or after a relapse. So, what is a shame spiral and how it leads to porn? This pattern usually follows a cycle. It begins with watching porn, followed by a sense of shame, often tied to a thought like there's something wrong with me. That shame leads to avoidance, not just avoiding the behavior, but avoiding yourself, your relationships, your connection with God, or anyone who reminds you of who you want to be. The more you avoid, the more emotional discomfort starts to build. And over time, that discomfort becomes difficult to manage. At that point, the brain starts looking for something to relieve the pressure. And because it remembers porn as a quick way to escape, it returns to it. So how do you know you're in a shame spiral? The shame spiral is hard to notice while you're in it. But one clear sign is that the more shame you feel, the more your brain starts seeking false pleasure. Not because you want porn, but because you want out of the pressure. And if you keep beating yourself up, that pressure gets worse. You create an internal environment that feels unsafe to be in. And that's exactly what drives the next escape. There's no benefit to blaming yourself. It doesn't help you stop. It doesn't build trust. And it's likely the very reason you turn to porn in the first place. To interrupt this cycle, you have to stop treating the behavior as the source of the problem. Porn is not the cause of the spiral. Shame comes from your thoughts. Porn is just the response your brain returns to after shame has already taken over. What you do in the moments after shame shows up is what matters most. So now I'm going to walk you through a 6-step process you can use as a self-coaching guide, something you can return to anytime you feel stuck in shame and want a way forward that actually creates healing. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is start identifying the thoughts that are producing your shame. Shame doesn't come out of nowhere. It's usually triggered by something you telling yourself in a moment. Something that sounds true because it feels bad. Something like, I shouldn't have done that, or there's something wrong with me. These thoughts often move fast and operate in the background, so you might not even realize they're there. But if you slow down and ask yourself, what am I telling myself right now? You will start to see the belief that's fueling the shame. And this is important because shame is not caused by the porn. It's caused by the meaning you attach to it. That's why two people can do the exact same thing but spiral in completely different ways. If you don't bring that thought into the open, your brain will keep treating it like truth. And as long as that thought feels true, the shame spiral will keep running. So this first step is not about changing anything yet. It's just about naming what's already there. Once you can see the thought, you create space to question it. And from that space, you begin to loosen the grip that shame has on your identity. Once you identify the thought that's producing the shame, the next step is to separate what actually happened from the story your brain is telling about it. Now, what you're going to want to do is get clear on the difference between the facts and your interpretation. Because shame thrives in confusion. It lives in the gap between what happened and what you believe it says about you. So let's say you watched porn last night. That's the fact. It's something that happened. It's neutral. Just like you saying you ate a cookie or stay up too late. But your brain doesn't usually stop there. It adds something. It says, I have no self-control, or I'm never going to change. And suddenly it's no longer about what happened. It's about who you are. This step is about slowing down and asking two questions. What actually happened? And what am I making it mean about me? Now that you separated the facts from the story, the next step is to shift into a higher perspective, the part of you that's steady, grounded, and clear. This is where you call on your higher self. Because once you name the thought and see how it shaped your shame, it's easy to stay stuck in the same loop, knowing it's there but still believing it. So now we need a different voice in the room, a voice that isn't reacting, a voice that sees the full picture. This part of you isn't confused by the emotion. It knows that urges are normal. It knows that porn use is a behavior, not a definition of who you are. And it doesn't respond to setbacks by shaming. It responds by offering clarity and truth. So the question here is, what would your grounded, compassionate self say right now? Not the version of you that's scared or disappointed, but the one who sees you clearly, even here. The one who remembers what you care about and doesn't make this moment mean more than it does. This voice doesn't rush in to fix everything. It just holds a steady presence that reminds you you're still here, you're still capable, and you don't have to earn your way back to being whole. Now that you connected to your higher self, the next step is to allow the feeling of shame instead of resisting it or trying to push it away. This part is where most people get stuck because shame doesn't feel good. The instinct is to run from it, to distract yourself, numb out, or try to fix it as quickly as possible. But the more you resist it, the stronger it gets. Not because the shame is dangerous, but because the reaction to it is what drives the habit. So here's what's important to understand. Shame itself is not harmful. It's just a vibration in your body. It can rise, it can sit, and it can pass. But when you panic or tighten around it, when you say this shouldn't be here, you start trying to escape. And that's when you go looking for something to make it stop. This step is about doing the opposite. It's about staying present with the emotion. Even when it feels heavy, you let your body feel whatever it's feeling. You breathe, and you remind yourself that feeling unwanted emotions won't hurt you. This is where healing actually begins. Not by getting rid of shame, but by proving to yourself that you don't have to run from it. Now that you allow the shame to be there without reacting, the next step is to connect with your future self. This is important because shame wants to keep you locked in the past, replaying what you did, what it means about you, while you keep messing up. And if you stay in that loop, it's really easy to spiral back into more hiding, more numbing, or even more porn. Your future self breaks that loop because they live in a different story than the one shame is telling. This is the version of you who has already moved through this habit. They've been there and they know it didn't define them. Here's how to actually do this. You don't need to imagine some perfect or idealized version of yourself. Just think about the version of you who no longer feels controlled by porn. Maybe they are 6 months ahead of you, maybe it's 2 years. Either way, they are still you, with the same heart, same story, just more experience. Close your eyes and picture that version of you sitting next to you, and you ask, what would my future self say to me right now? Here's what they might say. This isn't your undoing. This is one of the moments that taught me how to heal. I love you. I remember this night. I don't judge you for it. Keep going. You're learning how to stop spiraling, how to be safe in your own body. If that feels hard to imagine right now, just pick one sentence that feels kind and true, even if it's small. Write down. This is how you build an internal voice that knows how to guide you forward. when shame wants to pull you backward. The last step in this process is deciding what you're going to believe about yourself when dealing with shame. Because shame wants you to believe you are the problem, that you're broken, that you never change. And when you believe that, it becomes very hard to show up for yourself in a healing way. So you don't wait for those old beliefs to go away on their own. You decide actively and intentionally what to believe instead. Here's how to do that. You're not trying to lie to yourself or jump too far ahead. You're just choosing thoughts that are both kind and believable, even in the middle of your struggle. Here are some examples. I'm worthy of love and belonging even when I struggle. I'm building emotional maturity, not chasing streaks. This is a chapter, not the whole story. I'm not broken, I'm human and healing. And one of these can be enough. You don't have to believe it 100% right away. What matters is that it comes from a place of truth and care. So that's the whole 6-step process. As you begin working with this process, I want to offer 2 important notes. The first is to be careful with justification. Sometimes when people try to escape shame, they swing to the other extreme. They tell themselves porn is fine, that it doesn't matter, that it has no cost. But if you're being honest, you already know that isn't true, because even if it brings temporary comfort, it pulls from your time, your energy, your focus, and your growth. It's not positive. And the goal here is not to pretend it is. The answer isn't shame, and it isn't justification either. The answer is to remember that you are already worthy and that you can be committed to becoming a better version of yourself without turning against who you are right now. The second note is about how you treat shame when it shows up. This process is not about resisting it. You can let shame move through your body without agreeing with what it says. You can believe that porn is not good for you without believing that you are bad for struggling with it. That's what it means to heal without shame. You stay honest, you stay grounded, and you choose to keep going. As I mentioned at the beginning, this video is a self-coaching guide. It works best when you move through it with practice, when you implement each step instead of just listening passively. The more you use what you learn, the more natural it becomes to respond to shame in a new way. Now, once you learn how to heal from shame, what you need next is to work with your belief system. That's what creates lasting change, the kind that helps you become someone who no longer feels stuck in the porn cycle. I will show you how to no longer let porn mess with your life, your relationships, your time, or your energy, even though there's a part of you that still enjoys pornography. I will show you in next video. Click to watch now.